Hello and welcome to video 3 of our evaluation series for the cloud automation appliance configuration. Very similar again to how the other systems have been assigned. We use the same image, and in the menu selection this time we want to ensure we select the CAA automation appliance, which will then install the additional software configuration. We do also need to select the version, so this does have a correlation to the IPControl version when you think about it in terms of the MySQL and the backend database. So we do keep these systems in sync with versions. I'm going to go ahead and set my defaults, 16 eval CAA. This will be the 5th address in our range with the router. My real NTP server, again, that's very important that we get some time sync in this, or it will drift heavily with virtual systems if it is under stress or load in long terms. All right, so we'll evaluate again, or just verify your screen that you have CAA, your versions, IPs, everything looks good, and then here you can go ahead and continue. We're going to keep the rest as defaults. And this is going to go through a series of, again, installers. It installs the operating system and everything like the others do. So that same amount of time is going to be applied, and then it will go through the installation of the software where it'll install the CAA, which will be part of the additional software portion of the install. So I'm going to pause this. I'm going to open it up again and start recording, add some additional comment as I see something of interest here. But again, we'll provide full videos of the entire sequence that you would see the video that you can stop at any time. And for those who watch golf on TV, this is very much like golf narration as we're watching the shots occur here. As things are coming up, I'm going to be mentioning things and narrating. So I'll be back shortly. And you may note as well that each of these different appliance types has a different colored header when you're logged into the App Admin Administrator. If you didn't notice that before, it is purple, I think, for the executive, a blue or something for the agent, or vice versa, and the green here for the CAA. And as, again, like the executive, this is basically an executive server. There is installation media, which comes from the supplemental that is part of the image. And it should just extract all of those components, basically less the database. And then it installs on top of it the Node-RED workflow designer. And like the executive, the HTTPS, there is no Tomcat per se for access to the web UI. It is basically just for the APIs and serving those. So there's a different URL in that function. But the other services are very similar in port. They'll use 443. And then the last part here is the Node-RED installation, which creates its application and installs the latest. Now we may need to upgrade this to a specific version, which I'm going to verify here shortly. But we do need to check once we install and get the license key, which will take a minute or two to get that done, but I'll show you that process. So we will need to log into this and do a few things before we can, say this system is ready to go and complete. Okay, our appliance is done. The installation, it's rebooting now. We're going to go ahead and just help it through this pause. And as soon as the system is available again, we're going to log into it, and we're going to log in as app admin. I'm going to do it in a putty window so that I can copy and paste and I have my paths set correctly. We'll give this just 1 second to load. Okay, it takes a few minutes, or about a minute there. By the way, sorry for the delay and that awkward silence there. Let's try app admin again. All right. Now, the very first thing we want to do here is potentially make sure our time is set. So let's just go make sure under management. And we'll go to date and time. And let's go ahead and just do NTP stats. Great. Just for the key that we're going to generate here. All right, so very first configuration, we want to go under configuration number 3 for CAA API service. And then there's going to be a license key option. And we're going to tell it to generate the license data. And we don't have any AI-driven alerting, so we're going to keep that off. Hit OK. And very important, this does create a file, as you see, under opt and control temp. You want to go ahead and copy the contents of this, and you want to submit to me or to your engineer or to the support desk to generate a license key, which I am going to go do now. And I'm going to pause this video and come back when it's ready. Be back shortly. Okay, a few minutes later, we have our license key, and we're ready to go ahead and paste this. So go ahead and navigate again back to the license screen. We're going to install the license, and we're going to just simply paste this file, or paste the contents, quite large. And if it's accepted, it's going to give us an option to apply it with an X, which it did. And then it's going to update and start the services and effectively finish up our installation, if you will, for the CAA. Now, we need to do a few other changes before we can say that this video and this series is wrapped up. One of those is we need to go in and we need to set up on the executive a particular user or credential that will be used for the CAA to connect to the database backend. The default for that is to use the Inc. admin. I particularly like to change that so that I can control the user and kind of limit some of those particular capabilities. So first of all, on that system, we need to, now on the CAA, change to the executive. So we're going to do 10.0.2. If we have a backup executive, we would also define its address, which then allows the CAA to switch between the primary executive and a backup executive as you're promoting or demoting those systems. This may take a few minutes as it starts and stops services as we go through it, but we're going to finish this shortly. Okay, and then we'll go to database configuration. Now, over on the executive system, we need to run a SQL command to allow us to log in as root. So we're going to do root, and this is going to bring us into the MySQL prompt where we're going to create effectively a new user. So I'm going to do create user, and I use WF admin for workflow admin for this purpose. And we're going to give it an address to lock it down. So 10.10.0.5. And identified by, and I'm going to give it a real simple password here, but use some complexity in yours. The second part of this user is that we need to grant the privileges, and I am going to grant effectively all privileges on this database so that we can do every function. But again, this is something you may want to consider to put specific selects and or specific grants in this setup. But we're going to keep it open until we know what those are to lock it down and move forward. Grant all privileges on and control everything to WF admin at 10.10.0.5. Grant all privileges. Okay, and then flush privileges. I cannot type for the life of me this morning here. All right, so now we're good. And then over here back in our CAA admin, we're going to change the database user to WF admin. And then we're going to enter our password. And yes, it does echo, so do this maybe in privacy or in a separate window. And we're going to leave the rest of this correct because those should be correct. And we're going to press X, which will take us back. We'll apply the changes. And then it's going to set all of the different underlying Tomcat properties that identify the JDBC connectivity, which system, the user, and those functions for the backend process. And once we're reloaded again, we are going to then run a test against this database in the IPControl, which will then validate versions to ensure the version settings are as well. This also will ensure that you have firewall access. You'll need port 3306 open to allow you to connect to the database from the CAA, port 1880 and 8443, and some other ports that we'll go through, which are identified in their relative TCP documents. All right, so that's all for this. Now let's go ahead and just connect and test our connectivity to it, which should be the CAA address 1880 and the admin URL. Okay, looks good here, which we're going to go ahead and say yes. And the very first login then is going to be, again, incadmin as the default. And this is going to be a different user than your backend IPControl user, the OS user, and others. And in one of these videos, I think I'll go through in an operational video all of the different changes of settings and maybe go over where the different users are applied. But we'll try to bring those out here in the document as well. And so we now have the CAAs installed. We can access the web interface, and we can now say that this installation is ready to go. And we'll go back now to IPControl and start working through the functionality. Thanks again. We'll be back shortly in the next video. Take care.